Mandos, this is the way. Hello and welcome to the show. You're watching Mando's Banter Boxes and this will be episode 10. So if you've been with us for all these episodes, thank you very much for watching. So this episode is all about toys. We're going to start with the classic Kenner toys, or as you can see in Ham's background there, Palitoy. I'm your host, Mandalorian, the X-Wing Jesus. Joining me today, we have C3 Barlow, human cyborg relation of a protocol droid.
Howdy.
Hello. And we have Ham Solo, smuggler of quality meat products.
Evening all.
And he's probably got another buffet going on.
Buffet's all gone.
C3's got a bit of a buffet as well now. He's joining in. So
I'm just looking forward to my oil bath, mate.
Just wind down and have a recharge, mate. It'll be good. Power down. Anyway, so if you're around in the 80s or you collect the vintage stuff, so me and Ham we're old enough that we remember it the first time round. C3 Barlow, he's saying he wasn't that old.
No, the only things I got my older cousin's hand-me-downs. So with all the stickers pulled off and barely recognisable toys.
Yeah. So I think the most impressive toy there was that came out with the original lot was the Millennium Falcon. And I know that somebody had that when it came out because they must have been very posh. So,
I don't know what you mean, but yeah, I might have had it. I definitely had a Falcon. I had, I don't know whether or not I got very lucky or just my parents loved me a lot, or whether or not it's just the fact that my dad was sneakily massively interested in Star Wars toys himself. So he basically used it as an excuse to buy us toys as a proxy. But yeah, we had Star Wars figures all over the show. We had the Falcon, I had an X-Wing, I had Slave One, an AT-AT, all of which we'll come on to in a minute. But it meant that, yeah, good times were had.
The thing is, like, those were very big toys as well. The Falcon was huge. As a kid, that was massive, wasn't it? And I was like, crikey, you must have lived in a big house to have all those toys as well. So very, very much.
Or basically, we just sort of like slept on top of them because we didn't have any room to move anymore because we'd spent all our money on toys. But no, it was all right. The Falcon was a beast, and especially since the target audience was, shall we say, the younger man. You're picking up something with your arm, and it would basically take up 2/3 of your body waving it around, and then you would
it actually had a handle, didn't it? The handle was one of the landing struts.
Yeah, basically pulled forward like a penknife, and you sort of like could carry it around a bit, and it's great. Problem is though, and you probably don't hear many people say it about it, but it was brittle as hell. The whole ship was not in a great place. It would fall apart, no problems at all. There was a large panel, large panel that you would hold in, and if you just looked at it the wrong way, it'd drop on the floor.
And the cockpit as well. The cockpit was a bit like
my one never actually fully shut properly, so it was always sort of like half cocked. And then there was a gunner's chair where you could stick Luke or Han in there, so they could sort of like do gunning things. The chair was a blue plastic chair, and it all just fell out because it was held on by a prayer.
The ramp was awful as well, wasn't it?
Oh God, the ramp was. I mean, I think by the time I parted ways with it, shall we say, the ramp had smashed, so it wouldn't actually hold in place anymore. The chair, God knows what happened to the chair. The gun had broken a few times because this is supposed to be a spinny round gun, but it span round and made a clicking noise, and that clicking noise was actually the plastic giving way. So that didn't work. It also had a sound effect, which toys in the 80s got to have a sound effect.
Yeah.
And it was like a button you pushed on the side of it, and it was supposed to be an exciting alert sound, but it basically just sounded like a cat being sick. So, and because it had like big batteries in it, it pretty rare for them to be replaced. So of course, by the time I did realise that they needed replacing, the batteries had leaked and the whole thing had gone to. So yeah. Oh, and there's another good thing about it is you could have the training thing, the flying sphere that you spray the lightsaber remote. That's it. And that sort of ended up falling off and disappearing under a sofa.
Was that on a bit of string or something like that?
Yes, it was literally a black obsidian kind of marble on a piece of string, and it fell off and rolled under a sofa and was never seen again.
Oh.
And of course, there was the chess set, the famous chess set that was basically just a blue plunger with a chessboard diagram on top of it. The diagram, the sticker that was on the chess set, that came off real easy. Yeah, it came off real easy. So easy that it wouldn't go back on again. But these are details. But ultimately, yes, I had a Millennium Falcon and I was the envy of my peers.
Yes, because that was amazing.
Wasn't as good as the AT-AT. The AT-AT was like 20 times better. AT-AT was kick-ass.
Yeah, I mean, the AT-AT was huge as well, weren't it? When you look at the Millennium Falcon and you had the AT-AT, they were the two big Star Wars toys. And I was always very, very jealous of the AT-AT. Because, I mean, they're still really sought after these days as well. Really, really good, tough bits of kit as well. And the fact that you could change the legs round and you could actually have it so you could try and walk it along. You had you put your hand inside to grab there was a handle. So you'd bring the side down, put your hand in, grab the handle, and you could animate the head from inside the main body.
You certainly could.
So cool. And then you had the guns, the chin guns would light up and fire as well, wouldn't they? That so good. But
again, the guns were held in by little plastic sort of rivets or something, and they broke quite easily. So again, by the time we got rid of ours, the chin guns were basically super glued to within an inch of their life on the bottom of the chin. So you couldn't pack it up because you'd probably lose the guns. Again, prone to battery leaking because it was the 80s and battery leaking was the thing. So you had like 3 big, fat, solid batteries in the body of the main chamber of the AT-AT, and that leaked quite readily. And you mentioned the movable legs. It sounds great in theory, but the problem is you move it and then it never stands up because you can never get them to.
Click. That was hard to click them as well, wasn't it? It was like
it was tough, especially as a youngster. But you could never quite, unless you had straight legs, very straight legs, you could never quite balance them up. So you'd have one leg forward and the whole thing would fall over. Or I'll move this one forward. No, it's going to fall over. And it was like the opposite of a weeble. It would just fall down.
But the problem,
I remember my cousins having an ATST, and I think you could press the buttons on the back of it and it would walk.
It was a breakdancing robot.
Yeah, that was it.
I had one of those as well. They were great, and you click it rapidly, and then realise that actually you're probably breaking it. So you click it slightly less, and then you break it anyway. So again, toy taxis.
That was a quality toy, and that was an affordable one. Whereas the AT-AT was, unless you were rich like Dave, you didn't have an AT-AT.
All I'm saying is that Christmas came but once a year, and I just happened to have many Christmases during that period of Star Wars toysness.
So
yeah, I got hand-me-downs before I knew what Star Wars was, and later figured out that I had a Han Solo minifigure and what turned out to be a Rebel transport. Remember that with the
we both were like, whoa.
The Rebel transport was the dream. Actually,
really?
No, I'll come on to two or three of the figgies that you could never get, which are rare as you like. Rebel transport was one. I mean, you could get hold of it, but the whole shtick about the Rebel transport is, yes, it was a spaceship you could play with, but it was a figure storage unit. So when you had
it had a trade thing that came out when
exactly.
I remember that.
And that was a really cool feature.
That was cool. That is cool.
Yeah.
Talking about
the other two rare
it's a big Darth Vader one, so it's about yay big.
Yeah.
And you pulled it open, and it had little compartments in there to put your figures in as well. That was an early one that kids really liked. You were like, but it's just a bust of Darth Vader's face and shoulders.
Yeah, but they don't.
That's really cool, and it's not really a toy. It's clearing your toys up.
But at the same token, it means that you can stick your guns somewhere. They're not going to roll under a sofa and you'll never see them again. So, there's a win there for sure. But I think that probably the rarest one I was aware of was actually the Forest Moon of Endor Ewok Village set.
Oh, so posh.
Super rare. I didn't have that. I'd only saw it once. I only saw it once in a shop, and it was all the money even then. So getting a mintish one now is going to be tough to find.
Talking about play sets, behind you, your background shows the Death Star, and that would have been awesome. Did you have that?
No, I didn't.
Ooh.
My cousin did.
The anger there.
My cousin did, and we used to go around and play at his house just so exclusively so we could play it. It was amazing. It was,
there were little features on there as well. It wasn't just this is this room, this is that room. There was a couple of other little features in there, weren't there? What were they? I can't remember. I know they were there, but I can't remember.
So on the roof, you've got a rotating gun. So if you're flying your big fat Millennium Falcon at your big fat Death Star, you can rotate the gun around to shoot it in. There was a working trash compactor, which was basically a cardboard slidey thing that would get smaller, and then you could slide it back. Go figure. There was an escape chute where there was like a plastic ramp that went from the top deck to the lower deck into the trash compactor, so you could stick figures down and they'd slide down to the bottom.
Yeah.
There was also a bridge of some description where you could move the bridge. I think you could move the bridge so it connected in the middle, so you could do that scene where Luke and Leia are trying to get the bridge to work again.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You can also use your rope to swing from one side to the other.
Yeah, there's been a rope with that then, mustn't there?
Yeah, there's a hanger bay. I mean, it was beautifully made, but ultimately it was cardboard. And that goes to show that in the late 70s, you could literally sell anything if it had Star Wars label on it.
Yeah, you see, we didn't get the Death Star, but we got the fake Death Star. So when Kenner introduced this, G.I. Joe came out, and the British version of that was Action Force, and they released a base which was pretty much the same as the Death Star, made of cardboard, and it was exactly the same thing. There were little features on that. So we had the Action Force one. The little G.I. Joes or Action Force figures were the same size as Star Wars figures. So we collected sort of like them both and mixed and matched them, which was quite good to use them as rebel troopers, like the little commandos.
Yeah, stick a little plastic hat on them or something and say, "Oh, you're a stormtrooper, really," or something like that. I don't know. But the one thing I would say is that there were a number of play sets for Star Wars that are increasingly rarer. Things like the Jabba's Palace one. I did have the Jabba's Palace one. You'll be glad to know. So I had a giant Jabba, which you turned his head and his tail moved, and that was about it. Oh, and his eyes followed you around the room, I think. But it was really weird. They had sort of weird.
That was just a possessed toy, mate.
No. Optical illusion. I think it actually advertised it on the packet saying his eyes follow you around the room. It's like, okay. But
detached from Jabba, they just go.
No, only. But the one thing that was interesting is you've mentioned this stuff weren't cheap, even in the 80s, 70s. This was usually quite expensive and incredibly popular. Not quite Buzz Lightyear popular, but it was very popular and hard to get hold of. And we mentioned cardboard. I seem to remember, was it 1978 or 77 when, for Christmas that year, Star Wars was such a big hit, they hadn't had a chance to make the figures. So they basically just released a stand with like spots where you could put your Star Wars figures and offered a promissory note that we'll get you your figures when they're made. So they were able to sell the promise of toys on the basis of Star Wars for that Christmas. That's quite special.
Especially for those times as well, to come up with that off the cuff.
Oh, totally.
Pretty damn good. But those figures, well, they were just awesome. But the whole point of it was to actually try and collect every single one. So when the first one came out, there were only 12 figures when A New Hope came out. But as soon as Empire Strikes Back, they clocked on there onto a good thing. Whoosh! And you were there. I was there every week in the toy shop, flicking through the cardboard things, going, "Oh, I really need. I'm looking for the hard to get ones. Have I got this?" And quite a lot of the time, you go, "Me and my brother, right? We came up with an agreement. He would collect rebels, and I would collect the Imperials. So I was bad guys, he was good guys, and together." He would go, "Right, oh, this is the rebels I want," and I go, "This is the Empire." So I thought I had the best deal there, because what I wanted was all the ranks of stormtroopers all built up, all the TIE pilots, all of that sort of stuff. So what I do, I go through and go, "Oh, there's nothing special there. Buy another stormtrooper then instead." And so, like, you would fill your ranks with snowtroopers and all that sort of stuff. But I really enjoyed just collecting and just seeing. You'd see on when they brought Jedi out, there was over 100 figures, and you were like, "Oh my god, how am I ever going to be able to afford to get all of those?" Dave.
Well, apparently, what you do is you just have very rich parents who love you very much. Alternatively, for those of you who are struggling a bit, what you could do is send away for them, because there were a number of figures that were available on send away. So if you sent a small amount and paid for postage and sent them some proofs of previous of your other figures, you could get them. And I'm looking at the list behind you, and I'm certainly identifying a few of them. So there was the Emperor. He came in a little box. We had a couple of those. I think we had Near Num. He rocked up in a box.
Yeah.
I think there might have been someone from Empire Strikes Back as well. I seem to remember they did it periodically, but not very often. But there were a number of figures, sendaways that you could get, and also you could get loads of accessory packs. I think we had a previous banter box. We were talking about like the little rope that you could attach to the top of your AT-AT if you had an AT-AT.
Yeah.
And you could climb up and down the AT-AT with Luke Skywalker, and then he could twat it with lightsabers and throw bombs in. Although he doesn't seem to have bombs as a figure set here, but never mind. So those were really cool. So if you were around at the time, you could certainly get some freebies if you sent off for them.
Yeah, the mains, they were really good, and I think they're worth quite a lot of money as well nowadays, if you've got all the stuff.
But that's the problem, who as a young kid keeps those toys in very good condition and makes sure they don't get lost or broken or eaten by pets.
Yeah.
Oh, Dengar, that was the other guy. Dengar, I'm pretty sure he was a send away as well.
No, it wasn't. I had Dengar.
I got send away. I'm pretty sure I did.
Massive backpack. Why?
Yes,
he had such a massive backpack.
He used to carry all his bandages around, didn't
it? Toilet roll holders.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that you don't really appreciate it when you're there at the time. But what you do appreciate when you look back on it is how rapidly they evolved from like pretty basic plasticky figures. Like Leia, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, they all had like basically a bit of plastic as a cloak.
Yeah.
By the time
quite good, because the plastic would go around and then they'd fold it back, so it was 2 layers.
Yeah, and then you've got the lightsabers that popped out their arms with the middle. It always looked like they were weeing. There's a little trizzle at the end. There's sort of like the sticky out bit.
Damn, what that bit was about.
That was to help you pull it out, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, or maybe to make sure you didn't choke on it.
Cut them off, didn't they? They're going.
Yeah, maybe to make sure you didn't choke on it. But anyway, you had those 3 figures that had the little pulley out thing, and then after that, they came as separate accessories anyway. So go figure. But by the time you started getting to Empire Strikes Back, they've got some really detailed and funky stuff going on. Like, for example,
Yoda, as we can see behind me, there was 2 versions of Yoda.
Yeah.
And, he had a rubber snake that went round him.
Yeah.
He had his little stick, and he actually had a fabric jacket.
Yep.
A little stitched up jacket. And I was like, I remember thinking as a kid, I was like, why have they done that? They could have just molded that jacket on. But it was like, oh, no, I'm going to take that off. And then you go, and it didn't go back on that well, I remember.
But you see, speaking of those, you've got also ones I remember, Forlom and Bib Fortuna. They actually had real fabric coats.
Yeah.
And Forlom's
a bit like almost leather-like, weren't it?
Yeah,
So,
really good one.
yeah.
Bear in mind that both of those characters have got really articulate, really funky figures, and then they're in the film for less than like 2 seconds or something like that.
There's Bob Fortuna next to the biker scout, and you can see
Yeah,
where his tendrils go round the body. That was really difficult to get off.
yeah, and then underneath it had a little,
And
little
it
rubber.
was even harder to get back on again. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, why did I take that off?
But then underneath the coat, he had a rubbery vest as well. A rubbery, isn't it? Wouldn't it be rubbery?
Yeah,
And trying to get that back on was no fun.
yeah, grey thing. But yeah,
But then
Fulham's was weird because he had like a little, that you can see just over my shoulder there as well. Fulham and Zuckus. And Fulham, he had a backpack with a front thing, and you unzip it, wouldn't you? Sort of take the little bits off the backpack, get it over his head, and then
again, massive faff for a character who's in the film for like 2 seconds. Go figure.
Yeah.
Did you have a favourite? Did you have a favourite one, Ian?
Favourite figure?
Yeah.
Well, it would have been Boba Fett. But we're talking about weird things that were really good, well done. Leia Boosh figure had the helmet that went on over the top, separate helmet. You can see that over that shoulder there.
Yeah.
And I was gobsmacked with that, and she was really hard to get hold of as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that helmet goes on there. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, my brother had that one, but I think that the one I was quite impressed with was the combat poncho Leia from Return of the Jedi, because she was a decent figure in herself, but she also had a hat, and she also had a poncho, and she also had a belt, and she also had a gun. And then you start thinking back on it, why was I so impressed with that? Because it was really well done, and you get to dress Leia. Oh, hang on a minute, maybe I like dolls.
Yeah, it's sounding a bit like that. But Action Man was always like that as well, wasn't it? That's what Action Man was about.
But I think my absolute favourite figure was probably Luke in the Bespin Fatigues, I think it was described as.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. He's up there on the second row.
Exactly right. I mean, it's not the fact that he's the most glamorous figure, or, maybe I've got a penchant for blonde-haired guys in brown outfits. No, it's the fact that he was rocking horse poo rare to get in about 1982, I think, or 1981. I can't remember, a bit a while ago. And I got him for my birthday, and none of my mates did. And I was lauding it like you wouldn't believe for a very, very long time.
I quite liked Lando, the skiff guard Lando, because again, you can see him just over my shoulder there. And he had a hat you could put on, and then he had the prod as well. I think I had 2 of him. And like I say, why would you have 2 of Lando? But I just thought it was a really cool figure. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna get him. The Ewoks had some weird headdresses you could put on over the top, didn't they? So like
latex.
rubber latex thing, and you put them on, and their ears would hold their headdresses on, which was a bit weird. But yeah, they weren't played with that much.
And there's the weirdest one. Huh? Prune Face. Do you remember Prune Face?
Yes.
He was really nicely made. I couldn't couldn't work out where he was in any of the films. I guess he's hanging around in Jabba's palace.
Prune Face. I think it was Cantina, wasn't he?
Well, it was one of the later ones. I think so. He came out.
Jabba's palace. Then, yeah.
I think he's probably next to your shoulder. He's hiding. So it must be a Jabba's palace thing. I think he's next door to the Rancor Keeper in your list there behind you.
Oh, look, got a nice coat, camouflage coat there. Look.
Yeah, it's quite. I seem to remember it was really robustly made. You could try and break him, and he wouldn't die. But then I don't think
player as well.
Yeah, maybe it's just the fact he didn't get played with much because no one could work out what the hell he was. Was he a prune? Was he a face? I don't know.
Only you can decide with Star Wars figures.
And similarly for Squidhead, he came with a nice cloak and a nice skirt for some reason because,
Who is that yellow one?
Yeah, Squidhead's kind of next to Ree-Yee's. He's just after your shoulder.
Yeah, that's a Quarren, yeah. But who?
Yeah, Quarren.
this yellow one there.
I have absolutely no idea.
What is quite interesting as well is that I've never seen any of the Jabba's band as figures.
Yeah, they're all here in the list, but I do remember there was a band set. You could get them as a separate set with all 3 figures in. So I snooted on the Rebo band.
Sorry, Snoopy.
So how much were you looking at for one of these figures back in the 70s?
It was about £1.25 a pop.
It was expensive as a kid. That was
Yeah.
2 weeks pocket money. That was.
Yeah. Back in our day.
To the kidney, you could probably get a handful. But they also went up. I seem to remember they rapidly went up in price because after the Return of the Jedi, like they kind of dropped off in playground cool. Although there were lots of people still selling them and lots of people still buying them. I definitely remember that I stopped buying them about a year or so after the film went out, and that was it. But you could still buy them like 3 or 4 years after the film, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
At least maybe that's memory. And that they were still launching new sets. But the last set, it kind of felt like they were scrabbling a little bit because they were just making up stuff, I'm sure.
They were.
Imperial Dignitary, I ask you. Anakin Skywalker the figure, because you really want to play with a ghost figure, maybe. And Han Solo in Carbonite. He actually came free with the Slave One ship, which I had. Well, my brother had. So they redid it and just basically brought him out. So it's Han Solo and a Carbonite thing that he could sit in.
That's on there as well. I think I see that somewhere. There you go on the bottom.
Yeah. But you start getting to that bottom row, and there's an awful lot of figures there that are kind of barely consequential to anything. Yeah. Oh, you get Lando with a decent cloak on this time, but that's probably about it. And the Luke Skywalker Stormtrooper, I seem to remember, because you want a Luke Skywalker with his helmet on. That's worth it.
Lando with a decent cloak. Yeah. So what you'd end up doing? So like we had so like you just said about Slave One. Slave One, that was another massive toy that you physically had to pick up. It was a big ship, weren't it?
Mm.
That one, rotating cannons, which was really good. But you had a weird kind of section that came out to actually put the figure in the chair to then move up, because it had the weird takeoff thing. You actually did that, and then there's a great big handle on the back, and it's sort of like, and you could rotate the.
We had a trigger on it. It had a, what do you call it? Something to that automatically meant it would roll. The wings would roll round, but you could also pull the trigger to stop them rolling all the way around, so you could do angled approaches and stuff.
Yeah,
which is a bit bonkers. But then again, you look that in the new Mandalorian show, and you get to see inside Slave One for the first time, and that's one of those mysteries of Star Wars that answered right there. This is how it sort of gyroscopes around when it takes off and stuff, and that's pretty faithfully recreated in a toy. You also had a little handle on the side that moved the flight chair from sort of like a resting position, and you can move it all the way up to piloting position. So that was cool as well.
The glass came out though. I think you had you had to start putting your stickers on as well, didn't you? For that, I remember putting all the stickers on myself. Yeah. Then you had the ramp that come down as well, didn't you?
Yeah, because the ramp could pull off without breaking it permanently, and there was a whole sort of like bottom section of the ship that come out, sort of like almost like a Tetris piece of plastic. So you had the canopy comes off, that comes off, and that would make a nice little debris set for you to have like gunfights for your figures hiding behind, sort of like cover. So you could make it look like a spaceship landed. And then with my piece of crap Millennium Falcon that would fall apart at a sneeze of a cat, then you ended up with a massive pile of Star Warsy plastic bits to be your battleground, which was quite cool.
Speaking of bits that blow up, they actually made loads of little things that blew up. So there was a big radar dish for Hoth. They had the radar dish that the rebels had, and it had a button at the back. You push the button, it would go and just disassemble itself, which was pretty cool. And there was there was an Imperial Hoth play set as well, which had loads of cannons on and stuff like that. And again, you push the buttons on it, and it just and all just fell apart.
Yeah, speeder bikes had an emergency release one, so they had like a little backpack button on the back of the speeder bikes. You popped them, and they just fell apart as well. So there's a good line falling apart. But you just mentioned actually that radar dish was part of an extra line that they thought of, which is we're not all the kids are buying this incredibly expensive Millennium Falcon or the very overpriced X-Wing fighter. How can we liberate more money from kids' pockets? So they introduced a range of sort of mini ships, and they were really, really cool. There was like a bunch of like rebel side ships, including what looked like a giant rolling pin, or like a raised seat that was on spring-loaded garden roller.
Yeah,
garden rollers with a carriage at the top, and you could push down, and it would sort of like spread out like that. There was a little tank with guns.
The canopy lifted up. We put some in.
Yeah. There was also
a little ship.
Yeah, it was like a Capture One thing, which had suction pads, so you could stick it to a wall, and it had a way of grabbing people and such. And there was another like mini fighter kind of thing. It was almost like a box that wings came down with gun out the front.
Yeah.
It was a whole range.
There was a maintenance thing that had little lines to refuel your ships. Right? The top came and rotated. That was, and you had like loads of little tools with it, and you put all the tools on it.
Possibly the most underwhelming of all the action sets you can get, because like, hey, I just want to fix my ship.
It was scenery. It was scenery to hide behind and have a shootout.
Yeah, possibly. But my favourite was all of that, right?
The E-Web was pretty good.
The E-Web gun, yeah. My favourite out of all of them, though, was a tiny, weeny, miniature Imperial shuttle. It was like a proper Lambda, white Lambda, but it had one seat in it. And you'd lift the lid off the cockpit, and you'd stick a little figure in, and there's a slider at the back that would make the wings come down. So just like the Lambda did. Very, 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 very cool. Imagine it's properly rare now, because I don't remember them being that popular.
Yeah,
but we had all of them.
The other thing we had that my brother had was Snowspeeder. And Snowspeeder was wicked good. Two little guys in there, but they got you had the main guns, and they all lit up as well, but they always got taken off, and they ended up not fitting. Nobody had. Loads of people had the Snowspeeder. Again, it was an affordable, large toy to play with, but everybody's front guns all came off. And like you're saying, you'd always go back to that battery compartment and find the batteries are leaked in there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if that's a fault of the toys or the fault of the batteries in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure it's a bit of both.
Yeah, but the main fault there was they got the scale wrong with the ATAT, because there was no way that was flying through the legs of the ATAT. It was just like, you go, can't really do that bit. We'll just fly around. No, a spoon and a bit of string. You fly around it with a bit of string, wouldn't you?
I think what my mate did it. We had the ATAT. He had the Snowspeeder, and what we did is sort of like we sort of like squinted at over the top of the Snowspeeder. Go, oh yeah, it's really close. And you put the ATAT the other side of the room. Oh yeah, perfect. You know, scale it up nicely. But yeah, you're right. There were a few mess ups in that respect. Their scalings, they just seem to get wrong every time.
But they sold it, and it was wicked, and it was good, very good memories. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to link in with C3 Barlow, because C3 Barlow's son, E3 Barlow, he's got some of the new stuff.
Oh yeah, they're my sons. Yeah, of course.
He's got some of the new stuff, some of the Black Series figures.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously with the old stuff, they were like one way. The arms went out front and back. The legs came up and down, and that was it. They didn't really bend. But you've got the new Black Series. You've got the vintage collection, all multi-posable. I mean, my boys, Obi-Wan here.
Look at the beard on that.
Yeah, beautiful. So these were obviously bought as collectors, so they were meant to stay in the box. I kept them in the box about a day before I got them out.
Oh, no.
And then you got
whole series of internet viewers all cried out.
Well, that was the thing, you know, the vintage stuff, and that's my latest acquisition.
Yeah.
For my boy, of course. You know, this is all savings for him.
Evil Ray.
Evil Ray. But I mean, the stuff that they bring out now is amazing. You're talking about, you have obviously buttons you press, you get sounds. Now they've got this thing that you wear on your wrist, and when the figure comes near it, they do lines from the movies and stuff. So you have a pad on your hand, so when you hold it, and it starts doing lines, and you can get a whole series of action figures. I mean, you've obviously got the helmet series.
Yeah.
How many of us would love one of those when we were a kid?
I'm not going to get all of them. I'm just getting.
Not going to get all of them. I just seem to have about 8 of them coming. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but to be honest, my favourite ones are the toy box toys. Have you seen those that Disney do?
What ones are they?
They're very cartoony looking figures. So you get a Boba Fett, but it looks like it's out of a cartoon rather than a movie.
I'm with you.
And you get like Darth Maul from Clone Wars. But again, the multi-pose, they're a bit chunkier. They're better for kids. And yeah, they don't, obviously, I'd rather my boy play one of those than one of these.
Yeah. But we're going to have to end it there, I'm afraid, guys. We're running out of time. We'll do the new toys another time, but it's good to link into that like that. So
definitely.
Thank you all.
Collecting.
Thank you for being on the programme. And this is
Mendo's, this is the way.
Cheers, guys.
That's all right. That went out better than I thought it was going
to. I didn't think we were going to be able to talk that long about toys. That's pretty good.
Well, I mean,
I really should just have my beer and listening to you guys.
So yeah, I mean, literally, old men talking about toys from 35 years ago. I mean, power to you. Power to you.
Here when I were a lad.
Well, how are you on?